Lisa stood outside the tall glass building, her heart beating so fast she could hear it in her ears. She checked her phone again. 2 hours and 30 minutes until the family reunion. 2 hours and 30 minutes until she would have to face her mother's disappointed looks and her sister's smug comments about her perfect marriage. The autumn wind blew through downtown, making her shiver in her light jacket. She had been standing here for 20 minutes now, watching people walk in and out of the office building. She knew this was crazy. She knew this was probably the worst idea she'd ever had, but she was desperate. Her phone buzzed with another text from her mother. "Looking forward to meeting your husband today. I've told everyone about him." Lisa closed her eyes and took a deep breath. 3 months ago, she had made a terrible mistake. During a video call with her family, her mother had started her usual speech about Lisa being 32 and still single. How all her friends' daughters were married with children. How Lisa was wasting her life focusing on her career instead of finding a good man. In a moment of pure frustration, Lisa had lied. She told them she was dating someone wonderful, someone serious. Before she knew it, the lie had grown bigger and bigger. She was in a relationship. They were living together. He was amazing. He was successful. They were thinking about marriage. Now, 3 months later, her family expected to meet this perfect man who didn't exist. Lisa had tried everything. She asked her male friends, but they were all busy or lived too far away. She even looked into hiring someone online, but that felt too weird and expensive. She was running out of time and options. That's when she remembered him. The man from the elevator. She worked on the 15th floor of this building, and he worked somewhere higher up. She had seen him maybe 10 times over the past year. He was always polite, always well-dressed in nice suits. He had kind eyes and a warm smile. He seemed like the type of person her family would approve of. But there was one problem. Lisa had never actually spoken to him. She didn't even know his name. The glass doors opened, and there he was. He walked out carrying a coffee cup and checking his phone. He was wearing a dark blue suit and looked like he was heading somewhere important. This was her chance. Maybe her only chance. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice shaking a little. He looked up, surprised. "Oh, hey, you're from the 15th floor, right? I've seen you in the elevator." "Yes, that's me." Lisa felt her face getting hot. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I have a really strange question." He tilted his head, looking curious but not unfriendly. "Okay, what's up?" Lisa opened her mouth, then closed it again. "How do you ask a complete stranger to pretend to be your husband? How do you explain that your entire family thinks you're married to someone who doesn't exist?" "This is going to sound really weird," she started. "Try me," he said with a small smile. "I need someone to pretend to be my husband for about 4 hours today." The man nearly dropped his coffee. "I'm sorry, what?" Lisa felt like running away, but she forced herself to keep talking. "I know how it sounds. I know this is crazy, but I'm in a really bad situation and I don't know what else to do." He looked around as if checking to see if this was some kind of joke or if someone was filming them. "Can you explain that again, slowly?" "My family is having a reunion today. 3 months ago, I told them I was married because my mother wouldn't stop asking why I'm still single. The lie got out of hand and now they expect to meet my husband. But there is no husband. I made him up." The man stared at her for a long moment. "You made up a husband?" "I know it sounds terrible. I'm not usually like this. I don't normally lie to my family. But my mother has been putting so much pressure on me about getting married and having kids. Every family gathering, it's the same conversation. Why don't I have a boyfriend? When am I going to settle down? All my cousins are married. I'm disappointing the family." She was talking faster now, the words pouring out. "Last time she actually brought a man to dinner without telling me. Some guy from her church who she thought would be perfect for me. It was so embarrassing. He spent the whole night talking about how women should focus on being good wives instead of having careers." The man's expression softened a little. "That sounds rough." So when she started the same speech again during our video call, I just snapped. I told her I was seeing someone amazing. Before I knew it, I had created this whole fake relationship. And now they're all expecting to meet him today. "Why me?" he asked. "We don't even know each other." Lisa felt her cheeks burning. "I know this is awful. I've seen you in the elevator, and you always seem really nice and professional. You dress well, you're polite. You seem like the kind of person my family would approve of. I know I have no right to ask this, but I'm desperate." He was quiet for a moment, looking at her with those kind eyes she'd noticed in the elevator. What exactly would this involve? Just coming to a family lunch with me, pretending we're married, maybe holding hands and acting like we know each other. I would pay you, of course. Whatever you think is fair. You want to pay me to pretend to be your husband? I know how it sounds. I know this is the weirdest thing anyone has ever asked you. But I'm running out of time and I can't face my family alone again. Not after telling them about my perfect marriage. The man looked at his watch, then back at her. What's your name? Lisa Chen. I'm David Williams. He extended his hand, and she shook it, surprised by how normal it felt. Nice to officially meet you, David. This is definitely the strangest conversation I've ever had, David said, but he was almost smiling. Tell me about your family. What exactly am I getting myself into? Lisa felt a tiny spark of hope. He wasn't saying no. He wasn't walking away or calling her crazy. My mother is very traditional. She grew up believing that a woman's main goal should be marriage and children. My father usually stays quiet during family arguments. My sister Rebecca is married with 2 kids and she loves reminding everyone how perfect her life is. There will probably be about 20 people there. And they all think you're married? Yes, they think I've been married for about 6 months. I told them we had a small ceremony. David shook his head, looking amazed. 6 months? You've been lying about being married for 6 months? I kept thinking I would figure something out. Maybe I would meet someone for real and it wouldn't be a lie anymore. Or maybe I would just tell them we broke up. But then my mother started planning this reunion, and she was so excited to meet my husband. She's told everyone about him. If I show up alone now, I'll never hear the end of it. What did you tell them about this fake husband? That he's successful, kind, and that we're very happy together. I kept the details vague on purpose. David was quiet again, and Lisa could see him thinking it over. She held her breath, waiting for his answer. This is completely insane, he said finally. Lisa's heart sank. I know, I'm sorry for bothering you. I should just face the truth and tell my family what I did. I didn't say no, David said quickly. I said it was insane. There's a difference. Lisa looked up at him, hope returning. Does that mean you'll consider it? I must be crazy, but yes, I'll consider it. David looked at his watch again. I have about an hour before I need to be somewhere. If we're going to do this crazy thing, we need to talk it through properly. There's a coffee shop across the street. Lisa nodded eagerly, hardly believing he was still considering her ridiculous request. They walked across the busy street together, and she couldn't help but notice how confident he seemed. He held the door open for her at the coffee shop, and she thought about how her mother would approve of his manners. 2 coffees, David told the barista. Make them strong. We're going to need the caffeine for this conversation. They found a quiet table in the corner, away from the lunch crowd. David sat across from her and pulled out a small notebook from his jacket pocket. Okay, Lisa, if I'm going to do this, we need rules, clear boundaries, and we need our story straight. You're really going to help me? Lisa still couldn't quite believe it. I'm thinking about it. But first I need to understand why you can't just tell your family the truth. Why is this lie so important that you're willing to ask a stranger to help you keep it going? Lisa wrapped her hands around her coffee cup, feeling the warmth through her palms. You don't know my mother. She's not a bad person, but she has very strong ideas about how life should work. In her world, a successful woman is a married woman with children. Everything else is just temporary until you find a husband. What about your career? Your own life? I'm a marketing manager for a tech company. I love my job. I work with amazing people and I'm good at what I do. But to my mother, it's just something I'm doing while I wait to get married. She's never asked me if I'm happy. She just assumes I can't be happy without a husband. David wrote something in his notebook. What about your father? Other family members? My dad tries to stay out of it. He loves my mother. But he learned a long time ago not to argue with her about family matters. My sister Rebecca plays into it because it makes her look good. She got married right out of college and had kids immediately. She's everything my mother wanted in a daughter. And that makes you feel like what? Lisa was surprised by the question. Most people didn't ask how family pressure made her feel. Like I'm failing at being a woman. Like there's something wrong with me because I'm 32 and single. Like my accomplishments don't matter because I don't have a ring on my finger. David nodded slowly. I get it. My family has their own version of pressure. Different expectations, but pressure all the same. What kind of pressure? The pressure to be perfect. To never make mistakes. To represent not just myself, but my entire community in everything I do. David's expression grew more serious. My parents worked incredibly hard to give me opportunities. Sometimes it feels like I can never relax or just be a regular person making regular mistakes. Lisa hadn't expected this conversation to go so deep. Is that why you're willing to help me? Because you understand family pressure? Partly. Also because you looked genuinely desperate and I don't like seeing people in pain. David smiled slightly. Plus, I was planning to spend today doing laundry and watching football. This is definitely more interesting. What about your girlfriend or wife? Won't they mind that you're pretending to be married to someone else? No girlfriend, no wife. I got divorced 8 months ago. David's voice was matter-of-fact, but Lisa could hear something deeper there. I'm sorry. Don't be. It was the right decision for both of us. We wanted different things from life. David looked down at his notebook. Okay, let's focus on the practical stuff. If I'm your husband, we need to know basic things about each other. Lisa felt a mix of relief and nervousness. What kind of things? How did we meet? How long have we been together? Where do we live? What do I do for work? Do we want kids? We need details that will hold up under questioning. My family will definitely ask questions, especially my mother and sister. David started writing. Okay, let's start with how we met. It should be something believable but romantic enough for your mother. What about a bookstore? That sounds wholesome and intellectual. Good. Which bookstore? There's a nice independent one downtown. Pages and Prose, they have reading events and book clubs. Perfect. We met at a book reading. What book? Lisa thought for a moment. Something classic. Maybe Pride and Prejudice? My mother loves Jane Austen. You were at a Pride and Prejudice reading and I was there too. How long ago? Maybe a year and a half. That gives us time to date and get married. David wrote it down. So we dated for about a year before getting married. Small wedding? Very small. We're both private people who didn't want a big fuss. Lisa was getting into this now. What do you do for work? I'm an architect. I work for a firm that designs commercial buildings. That's perfect. My mother will love that. It's stable and respectable. What about you? What should I know about your job? Marketing manager at TechFlow Solutions. We develop software for small businesses. I've been there for 4 years. David nodded and made more notes. Do we live together? We should. Most married couples do. Your place or mine? Lisa hadn't thought about this detail. Mine? It's a 1-bedroom apartment in the Riverside district. Okay. I moved in with you after we got married. Do we want kids? This question made Lisa pause. What do you think? My mother will definitely ask. Let's say we're thinking about it but not in a rush. That's vague enough to avoid detailed questions. Good idea. Lisa was impressed by how thoughtful David was being about this. What about pets? Hobbies? Things couples would know about each other? I have a cat named Whiskers. Very original, I know. David smiled. I like cats. What else? I love cooking shows, but I'm terrible at actually cooking. I read mystery novels. I go to yoga classes, but I'm not very good at it. I play basketball on weekends with friends. I collect vintage records. I make really good pancakes. Those are good details. Normal, but interesting. David closed his notebook. Okay, now for the difficult part. Physical contact. Your family will expect us to act like a married couple. Lisa felt her cheeks get warm. Right, I hadn't really thought about that part. We can hold hands. Maybe I put my arm around you occasionally, but nothing more than that. We're not actors in a romantic movie. We're just two people helping each other out. That sounds reasonable. Also, if at any point you want to leave, we leave. If your family makes you uncomfortable, if this gets too weird, if anything goes wrong, we're done. No questions asked, Lisa nodded. What about payment? I know this is taking up your whole afternoon. David waved his hand. Don't worry about money. Just buy me dinner sometime when this is all over. Are you sure? This is a huge favor. I'm sure, but I do have one condition. What's that? If your family is horrible to you, if they make you feel bad about yourself, I'm going to speak up. I can pretend to be your husband, but I'm not going to sit there and watch people tear you down. Lisa felt something warm spread through her chest. You would do that? Yes. Part of being a good fake husband is protecting your fake wife. Lisa laughed, and it felt good. I can't believe this is really happening. Neither can I. But sometimes the craziest plans work out the best. David looked at his watch. We should probably head out soon. Where is this reunion? My parents' house in Oakwood Hills. It's about a 20-minute drive. Fancy neighborhood? Very fancy. My parents have done well for themselves. Any other warnings I should know about? Crazy uncles? Nosy aunts? My Aunt Helen will probably ask very personal questions. She has no filter. And my cousin Jennifer always tries to one-up everyone else's news. I can handle that. Lisa looked across the table at this man who was willing to spend his Saturday pretending to be married to a stranger. David, why are you really doing this? You could have walked away when I asked. Most people would have. David was quiet for a moment. Because I know what it feels like to disappoint your family. I know what it's like to feel like you're not living up to their expectations. And I know what it's like to wish you had someone in your corner when things get tough. Thank you, really. I know this is weird and complicated. And I'm grateful. Just promise me something. What? After today, think about whether keeping your family happy is worth making yourself miserable. Sometimes the people who love us need to learn to accept us as we are. Lisa nodded, though she wasn't sure she was brave enough to have that conversation with her mother. I promise I'll think about it. Good. Now let's go be the happiest fake married couple in Oakwood Hills. The drive to Oakwood Hills felt both too long and too short. Lisa's hands were sweating as she gripped the steering wheel, while David sat calmly in the passenger seat, occasionally asking questions about family members they might meet. Tell me about your sister again, David said as they turned into the upscale neighborhood. Rebecca. She's 2 years older than me, married to a lawyer named Tom. They have twin boys, Kevin and Kyle, who are 8 years old. She teaches preschool part-time, but mostly she focuses on being a perfect wife and mother. And she likes to remind you that you're not married. She doesn't say it directly. She just makes little comments about how wonderful married life is, how fulfilling it is to have children, how she can't imagine being alone at my age. David shook his head. Sounds delightful. They pulled into the circular driveway of a large white house with perfectly manicured gardens. Lisa could see cars already parked along the street, which meant most of the family had arrived. Impressive house, David said. My parents bought it when my dad's accounting firm really took off. My mother loves entertaining here. Lisa turned off the car but didn't move to get out. Are you sure about this? We can still leave. I can just tell them you got sick or something. David reached over and squeezed her hand gently. Hey, we've got this. Remember, we're happily married people who met at a bookstore reading Pride and Prejudice. I love your terrible cooking and you tolerate my basketball obsession. Lisa managed a small smile. Right. And you make amazing pancakes. The best pancakes you've ever had, David said with a grin. They walked up to the front door together, and Lisa noticed how natural it felt when David took her hand. Before she could ring the doorbell, the door swung open. Lisa, finally! Her mother, Grace, stood in the doorway wearing an elegant blue dress and a bright smile. Her eyes immediately moved to David, and Lisa saw her mother's expression change to one of pleased surprise. Mom, this is David. David, my mother, Grace Chen. David stepped forward with a warm smile and extended his hand. Mrs. Chen, it's such a pleasure to finally meet you. Lisa talks about you all the time. Grace shook his hand, clearly impressed by his manners. Please call me Grace. Come in, come in. Everyone is so excited to meet you. As they stepped into the house, Lisa could hear the sound of conversations and laughter coming from the living room. The smell of her mother's famous dumplings filled the air, making her stomach growl despite her nervousness. David, what a lovely name, Grace said as she led them through the hallway. And may I say you're even more handsome than Lisa described. Lisa felt her cheeks burn. Mom, what? I'm just saying your husband is very good looking. You did well, dear. David squeezed Lisa's hand and leaned down to whisper in her ear. Your mom likes me already. This might be easier than we thought. They entered the large living room where about 15 family members were gathered. Conversation stopped as people turned to look at the newcomer. Lisa felt like she was presenting David for inspection. Everyone, Grace announced loudly. This is David, Lisa's husband. A chorus of greetings and hellos filled the room. Lisa's father, Robert, approached them with a welcoming smile. David, good to meet you, son. I'm Robert, Lisa's dad. He shook David's hand firmly. Lisa's told us so much about you. All good things, I hope, David replied with just the right amount of humor. Mostly, Robert said with a wink, and Lisa relaxed slightly. Her father seemed to genuinely like David. Uncle David. 2 small boys came running over. These were Rebecca's twins, Kevin and Kyle. Well, hello there, David said, crouching down to their level. You must be Kevin and Kyle. Your mom told me you're the best soccer players in your whole school. The boys beamed with pride, and Lisa felt a flutter of warmth watching David interact with them so naturally. Can you play soccer? Kevin asked. I can, but I bet you're both much better than me. Want to see our trophies? Kyle asked excitedly. I would love to see your trophies, David said, and the boys grabbed his hands to drag him toward the family room. Be right back, David called over his shoulder to Lisa, flashing her a reassuring smile. He's wonderful with children, Grace said approvingly. That's a very good sign. Before Lisa could respond, her sister Rebecca appeared at her elbow. Rebecca looked exactly the same as always. Perfectly styled blonde hair, expensive clothes, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. So this is the famous David, Rebecca said, watching him admire the boys' soccer trophies. He seems nice. He is nice, Lisa replied, trying to keep her voice steady. It's just surprising, that's all. What's surprising? Rebecca lowered her voice. Well, you've always been so focused on your career. I never thought you were the type to settle down. And then suddenly you're married? It happened so fast. Lisa felt her old insecurities creeping in. This was exactly the kind of comment Rebecca always made. Not quite an insult, but designed to make Lisa feel defensive. When you know, Lisa said, repeating something she'd heard in romantic movies. Of course, I'm just saying it's a big change for you. Marriage requires compromise. Putting someone else's needs before your own. It's a lot different from being single and independent. I think I can handle being married, Rebecca. I'm sure you can. It's just an adjustment, that's all. Tom and I have been married for 10 years, so if you ever need advice about making it work. Lisa was saved from responding by David's return. He had Kevin on his shoulders and Kyle hanging onto his arm, both boys giggling. Your nephews are amazing, David told Lisa. They've been showing me their Pokemon card collection. Very impressive stuff. David knows about Pokemon. Kevin announced to anyone who would listen, and he said he'll play soccer with us later, Kyle added. Did he now? Lisa said, looking at David with raised eyebrows. If that's okay with everyone, David said. I brought a change of clothes just in case. Grace clapped her hands together. How thoughtful. Lisa, you didn't tell us David was so good with children. There's a lot you don't know about David yet, Lisa said, which was certainly true. Well, we'll have plenty of time to learn, said a voice from behind them. Lisa turned to see her Aunt Helen approaching. Aunt Helen was Grace's sister, known throughout the family for asking inappropriate questions and having no sense of personal boundaries. Aunt Helen, this is my husband, David. Helen looked David up and down appraisingly. So you're the one who finally convinced our Lisa to settle down. I was beginning to think she was going to be a spinster forever. Aunt Helen, Lisa protested. What? I'm just saying. At 32, we were all getting worried. But here you are with this handsome man. Tell me, David, what do you do for work? I'm an architect, David replied politely. Architecture. How creative. And how did you two meet? Lisa was always so busy with work I couldn't imagine when she'd find time to date. David slipped his arm around Lisa's waist, and she leaned into him gratefully. We met at a bookstore. There was a reading for Pride and Prejudice, and we both happened to be there. How romantic. Love at first sight? Not quite first sight, David said with a smile toward Lisa, but pretty close. Lisa asked a question during the discussion that was so insightful, I knew I had to talk to her. Lisa felt surprised by how believable David made their fake story sound. He spoke with such warmth and conviction that even she almost believed it had really happened. And when did you know she was the one? Helen pressed. David paused as if thinking about the memory. She made me dinner about 3 months after we started dating. It was terrible, he said with a laugh. Burned pasta, oversalted sauce, smoke everywhere. But she was so proud of herself for trying. And she laughed so hard when we ordered pizza instead. That's when I knew I wanted to spend my life laughing with her. The women around them sighed appreciatively, and Lisa felt her throat tighten with emotion. Even though the story was fake, something about the way David told it made her wish it was real. That's beautiful, Grace said. Lisa, you never told us that story. David tells it better than I do, Lisa managed to say. What about children? Helen continued her interrogation. Are you planning to give Grace some grandchildren soon? Lisa tensed, but David answered smoothly. We're excited about the possibility of kids someday, but we're not in any rush. We're enjoying being newlyweds right now. Smart approach, Robert said, joining the conversation. You two should travel while you can. See the world before you're tied down with little ones. Have you traveled together? Rebecca asked. Lisa could hear the skepticism in her voice. Not internationally yet, David said, but we've done some great weekend trips. Lisa showed me this amazing bed and breakfast in the mountains where they have the best apple pie you've ever tasted. Lisa looked at him in amazement. He was creating details that sounded so real, so specific, that even she could almost picture this fictional trip. The conversation continued as more family members joined in, asking about their wedding, their home, their future plans. David handled every question with ease, creating a believable narrative of their relationship that painted them as a happy, normal couple. What impressed Lisa most was how he included her in every story, making her sound interesting and accomplished. When someone asked about her job, he bragged about a marketing campaign she'd worked on. When they talked about hobbies, he mentioned how much he enjoyed watching her practice yoga, even though she claimed to be terrible at it. As the afternoon progressed, Lisa found herself relaxing and actually enjoying the gathering. For the first time in years, she wasn't the single family member everyone pitied. She wasn't facing concerned looks and unwanted advice about her love life. Instead, she was part of a couple, and David made her feel like she belonged. You know, her grandmother said quietly to Lisa while David was playing soccer with the kids in the backyard. I really like him. He has kind eyes and he looks at you like you're something special. Lisa watched through the window as David cheered enthusiastically when Kyle managed to score a goal. He is pretty great, she said, and realized she meant it. After the soccer game, David came back inside with grass stains on his clothes and a genuine smile on his face. The twins were still following him around, chattering about their favorite teams and asking when he would come play with them again. You're really good with kids, Lisa said as they stepped out onto the back patio for some quiet air. I have 3 nephews back home in Chicago. I've had plenty of practice. Chicago? I didn't know you were from there. David sat down on the patio swing and Lisa joined him. Born and raised. Moved here about 5 years ago for work. Do you miss it? Sometimes. My whole family is there. My parents, my sister, my brother. But sometimes it's nice to be somewhere where people don't have expectations about who you should be. Lisa understood that feeling completely. What kind of expectations? David was quiet for a moment, pushing the swing gently with his foot. My dad is a professor. My mom is a judge. My older brother is a doctor and my sister is a lawyer. I'm the family disappointment who became an architect instead of something more prestigious. Architecture is prestigious. Not to my family. They think it's too creative, too unstable. They wanted me to be a lawyer like my sister or go into medicine like my brother. Lisa looked at him with surprise. But you seem so confident. I never would have guessed you felt like a disappointment. That's because I've gotten good at pretending everything is fine. Kind of like you pretending to be married. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the rest of the family through the glass doors. Lisa's mother was showing photos to Rebecca while Robert and Tom discussed something that involved a lot of hand gestures. Can I ask you something? Lisa said. Sure. Earlier, when Aunt Helen asked how you knew I was the one. That story about the burned dinner. Where did that come from? It sounded so real. David smiled. It was real. That actually happened with my ex-wife when we were dating, except it was burned chicken instead of pasta. Oh. Lisa felt oddly disappointed that the story hadn't been created just for her. But the feeling I described, that moment of knowing, I changed the details, but the emotion was real. There really was a moment when I knew I wanted to spend my life with someone who could laugh at disasters and turn them into adventures. What happened? With your marriage, I mean. You don't have to tell me if it's too personal. David sighed. We grew apart, started wanting different things. She wanted to move back to her hometown and start a family right away. I wasn't ready for kids, and I loved living here. We tried to compromise, but some differences can't be bridged. I'm sorry. That must have been hard. It was. But it was also a relief when we finally admitted it wasn't working. Sometimes caring about someone means letting them go so they can be happy with someone else. Lisa thought about that. Have you heard from her since the divorce? She sent me a photo last month. She's engaged to someone from her hometown. She looked really happy. I'm glad for her. That's very mature of you. Took me a while to get there. I spent a lot of months being angry and hurt. But holding on to anger just made me miserable. The patio door opened and Rebecca stepped outside. There you are. Mom was looking for you two. She wants to get a family photo before people start leaving. We'll be right in, Lisa said. But Rebecca didn't leave. Instead, she sat down in one of the patio chairs and looked at them both with a curious expression. I have to say, David, you're not what I expected. What did you expect? David asked politely. I don't know. Someone more buttoned up, I guess. More serious. Lisa's always been so focused on her career. I thought she'd end up with another workaholic. Someone who wouldn't want kids or family time. Lisa felt her jaw tighten. I want kids and family time. Do you? You've never seemed interested in that stuff before. Remember when Kevin and Kyle were babies? You were terrified to hold them. I was nervous. That's different from not wanting kids. I'm just saying marriage changes people. Look at how natural David is with the boys. Are you ready for that kind of responsibility? David's hand found Lisa's on the swing and he squeezed it gently. Rebecca, I think you might be underestimating your sister. She's one of the most caring people I've ever met. I'm not trying to be mean, Rebecca said, though her tone suggested otherwise. I just want to make sure you know what you're getting into. Lisa can be very independent. She's not used to putting other people first. Actually, David said, his voice still calm but with an edge Lisa had never heard before. One of the things I love most about Lisa is how much she cares about other people. She works incredibly hard at her job because she knows how important her team's success is. She calls her grandmother every Sunday. She volunteers at the animal shelter on weekends. I think you might not know your sister as well as you think you do. Rebecca looked taken aback. I didn't mean to suggest she doesn't care about people. Then what did you mean? Lisa watched this exchange with fascination. David was defending her in a way no one ever had before, not aggressively but firmly and confidently. I just meant that being married is different from being single. It requires sacrifices. Like what kind of sacrifices? Well, like when you have kids, you can't just focus on your career anymore. You have to be willing to put family first. David nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right that having kids changes priorities. But I think the best parents are people who have their own passions and interests to share with their children. Lisa's going to be an amazing mother because she knows how to work hard for things she believes in. You already know she'll be an amazing mother? Of course I do. Have you seen her with Kevin and Kyle today? They adore her. Lisa felt tears prick at her eyes. Nobody had ever described her as someone who would be a good mother. She'd always assumed she'd be terrible at it because she didn't have natural maternal instincts like Rebecca. Plus, David continued, I don't want a wife who gives up everything she loves for me. I want a partner who has her own dreams and goals. Lisa's career matters to her, which means it matters to me. Rebecca was quiet for a moment. That's a very modern perspective, is it? I thought it was just common sense. The patio door opened again, and this time Grace appeared. There you are. Come on. We need photos before the light gets bad. They spent the next 30 minutes taking various combinations of family photos. Lisa noticed how naturally David fit into the group, joking with her father, complimenting her mother's cooking, and making faces to get the twins to smile for the camera. During a break between photo sessions, Lisa's cousin Jennifer cornered them by the kitchen island. So David, Jennifer said with a smile that reminded Lisa of a shark, what are your plans for advancing your career? Architecture is so competitive these days. It is competitive, David agreed, but I love what I do, so I'm willing to work hard for it. Have you thought about switching to something more stable? My husband Mark is in finance and he's done very well for himself. Much more predictable income than creative fields. Lisa saw David's expression tighten slightly, but his voice remained pleasant. I'm happy with my choice. I get to design buildings that will be part of people's lives for decades. That feels pretty meaningful to me. Oh, of course it's meaningful. I just meant from a practical standpoint. Especially if you're planning to have children. Lisa's probably thinking about financial security for the future. Actually, Lisa said, surprising herself with how firm her voice sounded, I make enough money to support a family if I needed to. And I care more about David being happy in his work than about him making tons of money. Jennifer blinked. Well, that's very generous of you. It's not generous. It's what you do when you love someone. David turned to look at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. For a moment, Lisa forgot they were pretending. Lisa's right, David said quietly. When you love someone, their happiness matters more than anything else. How romantic, Jennifer said with a laugh that sounded forced. Mark and I are more practical about these things. Different approaches work for different people, David said diplomatically. But Jennifer wasn't done. I just think it's important to be realistic about marriage. The divorce rate is so high these days. You have to think with your head, not just your heart. Lisa felt something snap inside her. She was tired of people questioning her relationship, even if it was fake. She was tired of family members who disguised criticism as concern. Jennifer, David, and I are very happy together. We've talked about all the practical stuff, and we've made our decisions based on what works for us. I'm not sure why that's anyone else's business. The kitchen went quiet. Lisa realized her voice had gotten louder than she intended, and several family members were now staring at them. I didn't mean to upset you, Jennifer said. I was just making conversation. No, you weren't, Lisa said, her voice still firm. You were questioning whether my husband and I know what we're doing with our own lives. And I'm tired of it. Grace appeared at Lisa's elbow. Honey, is everything okay? Everything's fine, Mom. I'm just tired of people questioning our decisions. Who's questioning your decisions? Everyone. Rebecca thinks I'm not ready to be married because I have a career. Jennifer thinks David should change jobs because architecture isn't stable enough. Aunt Helen wants to know when we're having kids like it's her business. Everyone has an opinion about our life except us. The room was completely quiet now. Lisa could feel everyone staring at her, but she didn't care. Years of biting her tongue and accepting unwanted advice had finally reached their limit. Lisa, Grace said carefully, people are just interested because they care about you. Do they? Because it feels more like judgment than caring. David stepped closer to Lisa and put his arm around her shoulders. Maybe we should get some air, he said quietly. But Lisa wasn't finished. Do you know what David said to me when we first talked about getting married? He said he wanted a partner who had her own dreams and goals. He said my career mattered to him because it mattered to me. Nobody in this family has ever said anything like that to me. Grace looked hurt. That's not fair, Lisa. We've always supported your career. You've tolerated my career while waiting for me to get married and give it up? That's not true. Isn't it? When have you ever asked me about a project I'm working on? When have you celebrated a promotion or asked about my goals? Every conversation is about when I'm going to settle down and have kids. The room was painfully quiet. Lisa could hear the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway and the distant sound of traffic from the street. I think, David said gently, maybe this is a conversation for another time. Lisa, why don't we head home? Lisa nodded, suddenly feeling exhausted. That's probably a good idea. They said quick goodbyes with promises to talk soon and assurances that everything was fine. But Lisa could see the confusion and hurt in her mother's eyes, and she felt a stab of guilt for ruining the family gathering. In the car, driving back toward downtown, Lisa and David were both quiet for several minutes. I'm sorry, Lisa said finally. I didn't mean to explode like that. Don't apologize. You stood up for yourself. That took courage. I ruined the whole afternoon. No, you didn't. You finally told your family how their comments make you feel. That's not ruining anything. That's being honest. Lisa pulled over into a parking lot and turned off the car. She put her head in her hands and took a shaky breath. Hey, David said softly. Talk to me. I don't know how to have that conversation with my family. I don't know how to make them understand that I'm happy with my life, even if it doesn't look like what they expected. Maybe start with one person. Maybe your dad. He seemed pretty supportive today. Maybe. Lisa lifted her head and looked at David. Thank you for defending me in there. Nobody's ever done that before. You shouldn't have to defend wanting a career and being happy. Can I tell you something? Of course. When you were talking to Rebecca about how I'd be a good mother when you were defending my choices to Jennifer, for a minute there, I forgot we were pretending. It felt real. David was quiet for a moment. For me too. Back at Lisa's apartment, they sat on her couch in comfortable silence. Whiskers, her gray tabby cat, had immediately claimed David's lap and was purring loudly while he scratched behind her ears. She likes you, Lisa said, curling up on the other end of the couch with a cup of tea. I'm honored. Cats are excellent judges of character. Lisa smiled, but her mind was still replaying the events of the afternoon. I can't believe I lost it like that in front of everyone. You didn't lose it. You reached your limit and finally spoke up. There's a difference. My mother looked so hurt when I said they'd never supported my career. David looked up from petting Whiskers. How did that make you feel? Guilty, but also confused. Because I know she loves me, but I also know that everything I said was true. She has never asked me about my work with any real interest. Every conversation eventually comes back to when I'm going to get married. It's possible for both things to be true. She can love you and still have blind spots about what you need from her. Lisa sipped her tea and thought about that. Is that how it is with your family? They love you but don't understand your choices? Exactly. My parents are proud of me in their way, but they'll never really understand why I chose architecture over law or medicine. They think I'm wasting my potential. Do you think you are? No, I love what I do. I love designing spaces where people will work and live and create memories. But it took me a long time to stop feeling guilty about disappointing them. How did you stop feeling guilty? David shifted carefully, trying not to disturb Whiskers. I realized that living my life to make other people happy was making me miserable, and a miserable version of me wasn't good for anyone, including them. Lisa set down her teacup. I don't know if I'm brave enough to have that conversation with my family. You don't have to have it all at once. But today was a good start, was it? I feel like I just made everything worse. Sometimes things have to get a little worse before they can get better. Change is messy. They sat quietly for a while, listening to Whiskers purr and the sounds of the city outside Lisa's windows. David, Lisa said eventually, can I ask you something personal? We're way past worrying about personal questions. Do you think you'll ever get married again? After your divorce? David considered the question seriously. I think so if I meet the right person. But I'm not in a hurry. I'd rather be alone than be with someone who doesn't really understand me. What would you look for? In the right person? Someone who has their own life and interests. Someone who challenges me to be better but accepts me as I am. Someone who can laugh at disasters and turn them into adventures. He looked at her with a slight smile. Sound familiar? Lisa felt her cheeks warm. That's the story you told about your ex-wife. It was. But today, spending time with you, watching you stand up for yourself, I realize that description fits you too. David, I'm not saying anything has to happen between us. I know today was complicated and weird, but I want you to know that everything I said about you to your family was true. You are caring and accomplished and going to be an amazing mother someday if that's what you want. And any man would be lucky to marry you for real. Lisa felt tears starting to form. Thank you. That means a lot. I mean it. They looked at each other for a long moment, and Lisa felt something shifting between them. This morning, David had been a stranger she'd asked for a desperate favor. Now he felt like someone who understood her better than people who had known her for years. I should probably go, David said eventually. Give you time to process today. You don't have to leave. I mean, if you don't want to. I'd like to stay, but I think we both need some time to figure out what happened today. Between us, I mean. Lisa nodded, though part of her wanted to ask him to stay for dinner to keep talking, to see where this unexpected connection might lead. David gently moved Whiskers off his lap and stood up. Can I call you tomorrow? Check how you're doing? I'd like that. At the door, David turned back. Lisa, promise me something. What? Promise me you'll think about what you want from your family relationships. Not what they want from you, but what you need from them to be happy. I promise. And promise me you won't apologize for standing up for yourself today. I'll try. David smiled. That's all anyone can do. After he left, Lisa sat back down on her couch with Whiskers curled up beside her. She thought about the day, about how natural it had felt to have David there defending her choices and supporting her dreams. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. I hope you and David got home safely. We should talk soon about today. Lisa stared at the message for a long time before typing back. We did. And yes, we should talk. I love you, Mom. The response came quickly. I love you too, honey. I'm sorry if I've made you feel unsupported. I want to understand better. Lisa felt tears slip down her cheeks, but they weren't sad tears. They were the kind of tears that came with relief and hope. She thought about David's question. What did she want from her family relationships? She wanted to be accepted for who she was, not constantly pressured to become someone else. She wanted her accomplishments to matter. She wanted them to trust that she could make good decisions about her own life. Those seemed like reasonable things to want. Her phone rang, and she saw Rebecca's name on the screen. Lisa almost didn't answer, but then she remembered David's words about courage. Hi, Rebecca. Lisa, I wanted to call and apologize for today. I've been thinking about what you said, and I realize I probably have been questioning your choices more than supporting them. Lisa was surprised. Oh, thank you for saying that. I think maybe I've been a little jealous of your independence. You've always been so confident about going after what you wanted. I got married so young that I never really figured out who I was outside of being a wife and mother. Rebecca, I had no idea you felt that way. I love my family, don't get me wrong. But sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd been brave enough to focus on my career the way you have. It's not too late, to figure out what you want, maybe not. Anyway, I wanted you to know that I think David is wonderful. The way he talked about you today, Tom has never defended me like that. David is pretty special, Lisa said, and realized she meant it. Are you really happy, Lisa? Because if you are, that's all that matters. I'm working on it. Today was a step in the right direction. After they hung up, Lisa made herself dinner, a simple pasta dish that she managed not to burn, and thought about what David had said about needing to figure out what happened between them. She knew what had happened. She had asked a stranger to pretend to be her husband, and somehow in the process she had met someone who saw her clearly and liked what he saw. Someone who thought her dreams mattered and her choices were valid. The question was what to do about it. Lisa's phone buzzed with another text, this time from David. Thank you for today. You were braver than you know. She typed back, thank you for being exactly the husband I needed, even if it was just pretend. His response came a few minutes later. Who says it has to stay pretend? Lisa stared at the message, her heart beating faster. She typed and deleted several responses before settling on. Want to find out over dinner tomorrow? My treat as promised. It's a date. A real one this time. Lisa smiled and set down her phone. Tomorrow she would have dinner with David Williams. Not as her fake husband, but as someone she was genuinely interested in getting to know better. Tonight, she would call her grandmother and tell her about the man with kind eyes who looked at her like she was something special. And next week, she would have an honest conversation with her mother about what she needed from their relationship to be happy. For the first time in years, Lisa felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be, not because someone else expected her to be there, but because she had chosen it for herself. Outside her window, the city lights twinkled like stars, and Lisa thought about how sometimes the most unexpected requests could lead to the most wonderful discoveries. She had asked a stranger to pretend to love her for one day, and somehow in the process, she had learned how to love herself. That seemed like a pretty good trade.